So, hi guys. Today we are in day 4 of our daily answer writing program, the free answer writing initiative that we have started in sociology. And two questions were given to you, uh, very basic questions and very, very important um, part of your paper one syllabus. So, without much delay, we'll start with discussing the question. Uh, the first one says, examine phenomenology as a critique of positivism. So, positivism was what is positivism was discussed in the third answer writing session. I hope all of you remember what is positivism. It is basically uh, the use of scientific methods to study society, different social phenomena. So, now, as I have already discussed in the class before, that ep- ethnomethodology, phenomenology, interpretivism, all these emerged as non positivist critiques of positivism. These are all non positivist methodologies. So, whenever we are studying something, studying a sociological trying to provide, doing social research, trying to provide any kind of sociological interpretation, we have to rely on a particular method, a particular methodology. And these are just methodologies, like the ideas that you have to dwell upon in order to build up your research. So, phenomenology is one such. So, what is phenomenology? This is the formal definition. So, you can mug it up because it has these keywords are very, very important. You don't have to mug up the simple connecting words, you just mug up the keywords. So, it is the study of formal structures of social existence through analytical description of facts of intentional consciousness. Might sound a bit absurd, might sound very, very abstract. What it is, I have no idea, no clue. That's what must have been crowding your mind. So I'll just break it up. Study of formal structures. So what do you mean by a formal structure? Any social institution is a formal structure. Law has a formal structure. For that, we have the constitution, which is the basis. Religion is a formal structure because we have different religious books, uh, our dharma shastras or something like that. Formal structures of social existence. So these define our social existence. We live in a society, we are bound by certain laws, certain religious beliefs through analytical description of acts of intentional consciousness. So you study formal structure not on the basis of what they are, but what we are trying to analyze through our consciousness, what how we interpret them. That is phenomenology. It was started by this German philosopher, German thinker, Alfred Skutz, and he provided a philosophical foundation. Phenomenology as a philosophy was started by Edmund Husserl, but connecting phenomenology with sociology was started by this gentleman called Alfred Skutz. So both phenomenology and it was one step ahead of Weber's Verstehen or interpretivism. So what it is, or it emerged as a critique of positivism. Now we'll see into detail. Like it says that examine how phenomenology, when you're told to examine, so you have to say how it is instead of blatantly writing. See, the point where most students make a mistake is they just write whatever they know. You are not asked what you know. The question is not what you know about phenomenology. Question is how it is a critique of positivism. So you have to hit the bullseye. If you don't hit the bullseye, you will come and you will say that, I've written everything, but that is not what is asked. You are asked to hit the bullseye, how it is criticizing positivism. So the first point is try writing in points because it's good. It's better for the examiner, instead of writing one whole thing, and try underlining your keywords. So they have criticized positivists for taking social reality as objective. According to them, social reality is not given but achieved through meanings attached to objects of social reality. So the meanings, I'll explain this with an example. We have the national flag. It's a piece of cloth. So Just like that, just do you think that it would have any meaning if we don't attach our national pride and honor to it? So it has, just like that, it doesn't have any meaning. It might have different meanings to different people, but I mean, the amount of honor and respect an Indian has for his flag, that maybe a Britisher or someone else will not have that much of. He will see it as an object of beauty. So say when we see, we will have national pride when we see the Indian flag as Indians, but when we see the state of flag of America, we will have a sense of appreciation for the beauty, for its aesthetics, or for that matter anything else. So flag is symbol. Everyone is not having the same kind of interpretation of the flag. So uh, interpretation is ours. It is not sociology or society or anything. It's not given to us externally. So it's our own interpretation. So the next point is, same reality can have different interpretations. Like fire, when we are using fire, say in a ritual or in a wedding, they take in the Hindu wedding, people take vows around the fire because it's considered sacred. We say Swaha because Swaha is considered the wife of Agni. If I'm not wrong, Brahma or Agni, whatever, I don't remember. But again, it's a very day-to-day object. When we are cooking on fire, regular, the gas you are using, the LPG gas you're using. So fire then. So at one point it becomes sacred because people are taking, when people are taking wedding vows around the fire, it is a sacred object. But when you are using it as a day-to-day object, then it is something, it is not something sacred. It is not something sacred. Third point is, it is criticized the functionalist perspective for understanding social reality only from the purpose it serves. So it focuses on the meanings individuals attach to it. For example, functionalists will also always consider, for example, for Durkheim, religion is born when it creates a collective consciousness. For example, it becomes when it acts as a tool of social solidarity. For example, the arti that is offered, say in a very big temple, say the arti at Varanasi or Rishikesh for that matter. Durkheim says religion is born then, but phenomenologists like Peter Berger, they say that, or any other non-positivist, they'll say no, religion is interpreted the way every individual interpreted, that is religion. For example, for some it may be a source of discipline. For some it may be a means to escape reality. So Berger defines religion, Peter Berger was a phenomenologist, as the human enterprise through which a sacred cosmos is established. This challenges Durkheim, who sees religion in terms of collective consciousness it builds. So Durkheim was defining it in terms of collective consciousness. Peter Berger defines it in terms of as a human enterprise through which sacred cosmos is established. So it all depends. So phenomenology says that there is no fixed definition. Ultimately, humans try to define a sacred domain, and that is religion. And as science progresses, that sacred cosmos, something that we don't, when we were all children, we believed that gods reside in the skies. Now we know you have stars, you have celestial bodies and all these things. So as science in a modern society where there are multiple faiths and science has progressed, this domain of religion will become very unstable. That's what Peter Berger says. That is why, that is because it depends on our interpretation. It is not a fixed entity. So you will end up in the conclusion, like, while phenomenology has been able to provide insight into social structure, positivism has lent precision into the discipline by wide use of facts and data. So that you can just make a compare that how both are relevant. Coming to the second question, problems of objectivity in social research. Objectivity is when you don't attach subjective meanings to it. As I said, I was talking in the other session, I spoke about this a documentary by Quint, Inside India's Rape Culture. So this documentary is subjective. Different people get interpreted in different way. Different people have different opinions on rape or sexual harassment. But objectivity is when you're this we are not attaching any kind of emotion or any kind of passion to it. It is just like figures or facts. 20 people committed suicide, out of them 15 were found farmers. So reason is, anomie or something like that. That it is very value free sociology. It doesn't have value, any attached value to it. But this was question, but this has certain problems. What are the problems? It is liable to be biased. For example, I can give you an example. When Adre Bete was doing his study of Tanjore, you'll study in your paper too. So these Brahmins did not allow him a place in the house, as upper caste Brahmins. So obviously there will be an inherent bias. So it is not objective in his collection of data, in its interpretation. Though Adre Bete was a Weberian, but the point is that there will be a bias if he was relying by positivist methods. Then there would be a bias because he did not get to collect first-hand data from these Brahmin households. Also, there will always be some kind of value judgment on the basis of the researcher. For example, a Marxist will always see from the conflict perspective. Functionalist will see from the kind of function it serves. He will not focus on dysfunctions. He will only see the functions. Right. So that's why Durkheim said religion is a means of social solidarity, a way of social control. But he will never see religion as a form of oppression on women. Again, Marxists will never see the functionalist perspective. So there is already always a value bias and complexity of subjects. So this a school of thought, which was one of the prominent proponents of it is Gunnar Myrdal. He's a social thinker, contemporary one. Total objectivity is an illusion. So he stressed on clarity of viewpoints. So what viewpoint you're trying to express, that should be important, but you cannot have total objectivity in a social science because it is not as as objective or as value free as 2 plus 2 4. You can never have 2 plus 2 4 in social science. So you cannot, so in the conclusion, you can write that it might not be possible to have totally value free sociology, but the researcher should always try to bring about objectivity and neutrality in the study. So I hope today's question was clear, that today's discussion was clear. So keep writing, as I keep saying, and do get it evaluated, do think sociologically. The next day's questions will be, I'll come up with the other session. Thank you.